My name is Sanat Biswal, also known as the Accountant Guy, and in this video we are going to see how we can utilize this monthly budget planner to start budgeting for each month. So at the very outset we have got 4 different views over here: the expenses overview, the monthly overview, the yearly overview, and the summary of all the expenses that we have booked so far. Starting with the expenses overview, I have created 4 different expenses for our use: shopping, entertainment, food expenses, and utilities. For each of these expenses, we have got the total expense amount, the budgeted amount, and the percentage of total budgeted amount incurred as an expense, and a status which indicates whether we have exceeded our budget or are under our budget. Then we move on to monthly overview, where we can see all the expenses that we just discussed in a monthly format. So here you can see that the months have been categorized over here, and for each month you can see all the expenses in one glance. Then we have a yearly overview, which shows the exact information, but this time we have presented it in a yearly format. And finally, in the summary section, you can get a complete expense overlook in a year format, where all the expenses are clubbed together to give an overview of how we are performing. In order to use this, we will be using the expense details database, and we will be entering all the information over here, which will help us to calculate all the expenses that we are incurring on day-to-day basis. So let's get started. Now it's time to start entering the transactions into the expense details over here, and you will notice that all the expenses are categorized into months, and the months have been sorted in a descending format, meaning later the month it will appear on the top. In order to start entering a transaction, we will click on this new over here and we'll enter the detail. So let's say we are entering the detail as February 1, 2024, which appears over here. You can put any date and any information over here as per the date, and it will automatically modify. If I put April, it will take into April month. So for this demonstration, I'm putting under in February. So I'm putting February 1. Once you do that, it will ask you to start entering the expense detail. So let's say this is a Wi-Fi expense. Now I will type in Wi-Fi expense over here. Then I need to select the period. So this is Feb 2024. So I will type Feb over here, and it will automatically show Feb 2024. You can add in your own period if it is not displaying over here. So I will select this. Then I will select the year. This is 2024 year. So I'll select that. Then I will put the category over here. So the category is the type of expense that I'm incurring. Now I have added 4 different categories over here. You can add your own category as well. So I'll select utilities over here, and I'll click on that. Then I'll put an expense code. Expense code is used to segregate all the expenses as per the category and the month. So this is a utility expense, and this is of the category utility and for the month February. So I'll select utility Feb, and then I'll put the expense amount in the expense amount column. Notice that you have got 2 columns over here. One is the expense amount and one is the budget amount. The budget amount is used at the start of the month to set budget for the specific expense, and the expense amount is used to book for the specific expense that you are entering. Now we will also learn how to set a budget for each of these expense, and we will explore more. At the start of the month, we always have an option to set up a budget for a specific expense. We just booked an expense under Wi-Fi under the utilities category. So in order to set a budget for a specific expense, we will simply select the date. So at the start of the month, we'll select February 1, and then we will enter the expense for which we are setting up the budget. So let's say we are setting up the budget for the food expense. So I've put food over here. Then we'll select the period. So we will select February as we did earlier. We can select the year as we did earlier, and then we will select the category. So this is a food category expense, so I'll select food over here. Notice that for setting up the budget, the expense name and the category name remains the same. So thus for all the budgets that you set for each of the month, you can select both the things to be the same. And as we learned earlier, the expense code is the category and then the month for which we're booking the expense along with the year. So I put the same category as the food, and then we will put the amount of budget in the budget column. Once we do this, it will automatically update all the figures that we have on the top for the respective months and for the respective category. So this is how you can set up budget for each of the specific expense, and then you can start entering the expenses as you keep on incurring for each of the date. Once you keep on adding expense information over here, everything on the top will be automatically updated, and you will be able to see more information as to how your month is progressing. Now we will be going through each of these views once again to understand what all information you can get from this, and also we will look at how all this information that you have put over here can be utilized in a different way to analyze your situation. So let's learn more. Now once we have booked all the expenses as we discussed now, it's time to see what all you can extract from here, like after booking the expense. So once you have booked the expense, if you click on this period, it will reflect all the periods in one glance, and if you click on a particular period, it will open up a new window where you can see more information. So here you can see for Feb 2024, we can also see all the transactions that we have booked so far with the details of the amount, as well as if the amount booked has been a budget or an expense amount. So this gives a quick glance of what is happening with your finances once you click on the period. Similarly, if you click on the year over here, it will also show a similar view that we just saw. It will show the budgeted amount, the expenses amount, the expense as a percentage, and the status of the budget. It also shows the transactions for the entire year in one glance, along with the amount for each of the expense and whether that expense amount booked has been a particular expense or is it a budgeted amount. Then if we move on, we can also see from the category how much expense has been booked for the particular category. This shows the expense amount, the budgeted amount, and the expenses as a percentage, as well as the status. Again, it also shows a particular category-related expense or whatever we have booked so far with the budgeted amount and the expense amounts. So this way you can utilize this to understand more about your finances if you want to track everything at the time of booking the transaction. One thing to note over here is that from the expense code also we can see, like for a particular category of expense and for a particular month, how much of amount have we booked so far in comparison with total budget. So in this way you can start booking your transactions over here, and you can keep a track of what is happening with your finances through all these 4 different views and learn more. Now this can be further customized to your use. If you have any more questions, reach out to me at notionformyuse@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to assist you on this. Thank you.